IronCAD 2022 Product Update 1 has added a new function in the Welcome dialog that allows you to save recent documents as favorites that will appear at the top of the list. All you need to do is go to the Welcome screen on IronCAD, right-click a part in your Recent Documents area, and select Favorite. Now, when you come back to this Welcome dialog, that scene will be available for use at the top of the tree. To remove it, all you need to do is right-click and remove the checkbox for Favorite.
New improvements in the 3D section tool have been made in IronCAD 2022 Product Update 1. Simply select on your assembly, go to the Section Part Assembly tool on the tool ribbon bar, and it will enable a triball and a section plane. You can reverse the orientation to quickly get an idea of how the part's being sectioned, and you can use the triball to quickly position the section plane and notice the dynamically updating section plane. Once you're ready, go ahead and hit OK to place the section plane. You can create multiple section planes just by repeating the command, using the triball, rotating to a desired orientation, and positioning it where you like, and hitting OK. This is useful for creating multiple sections on geometry. This improvement has been made especially for large assemblies. For example, we have a model here that has about 4,000 parts. We can simply select the assembly, again, run the tool, and you'll notice the section plane is very dynamic, just as we saw in the smaller assembly of about 2,000 parts. As you can see, as we dynamically pull this, we'll get the update, and we can go ahead and apply it. So these improvements go across the board in the 3D section tool, but really ideally targeted for large assemblies. In IronCAD 2022 Product Update 1, you can now use the Control-C and Control-V type operations to restructure your assembly tree. In the past, you would simply drag a particular part or an assembly into the desired location inside the scene browser. This is useful, but when your scene browser gets large, it's difficult to locate where to paste. So now you can go into the scene browser and do a Control-C or Control-X type operation. For example, we'll start with this platform tubing and we'll do a Control-X to cut that element, and notice it was this element here. And we can go into the scene browser and find the location where we'd like to place that. For example, when I select this assembly, when I hit Control-V, it'll actually paste it directly below the selected assembly. So we've got this support leg assembly selected, and if we hit Control-V, it will paste it into that assembly just below that assembly icon. Now, one thing to note is when you're doing a Control-V, it doesn't paste it in place, it pastes it in the scene based on the orientation of your model. So it would actually use the structure or the anchor location of your assemblies to reorient or restructure the path for that particular part, which is not what we want to do in this particular case. So if we go ahead and hit undo by hitting Control-Z, I'll select that assembly again, and this time I'll use the Control-Shift-V, which will actually paste it directly in place where we would like that. You can also right-click on assemblies to access that command, paste in place as well. So a very handy tool to restructure your tree, and that will work with parts or assemblies. For example, we can select this one, do the same thing on our assembly. We can do a Control-X to cut it, select on the assembly where we'd like to place it, but in this time we actually want to move it below that platform tubing, so we'll just do a Control-Shift-V below that, and notice it'll come below that part in that scene, in the scene browser there. We can also select nothing, and if you wanted to move it back at the top, you can do a Control-V here at the top, it'll place it at the bottom of your scene tree. So a very handy tool to paste things out of your structure to the top level of your scene browser if you like. And these are new commands in the IronCAD 2022 Product Update 1. New in IronCAD 2022 Product Update 1 is the Object Viewer. Located below your catalog, this Object Viewer can be docked anywhere in the scene. Simply grab the bar and move it to anywhere in the scene that you like, docking at other locations in the interface, or even drag it onto another monitor. Or if you like, put it back onto the catalog underneath where it's initially launched. What the Object Viewer is for is actually to give you an idea or a preview of the elements that you're selecting on in the catalog browser. For example, this is our default starter catalog. When we select on that, we get a quick 3D preview of what object we're using. This is useful for just IronCAD's catalogs. For example, we have other catalogs that you may want to get a closer look at before you start to use those by simply clicking on those, or even your own custom catalogs where you can insert your own parts and assemblies. And sometimes you may be using smaller icons or even a list control, and you want to get a bigger 3D viewable file of what you're looking at. This is a useful tool to allow you to get a 3D viewable before you drag and drop it into your environment to use. This is also used inside the scene browser. For example, where you're working on parts, you're not sure which part you're on, you can actually right click on any one of those parts and say Send to Object Viewer, and that will also give you a preview before you start operating on that particular part. At any time, if you like, you can just simply click in the scene to get the Object Viewer to stop rotating to allow you to work on your model without the rotation occurring. So a very handy tool that is just the initial stages of the Object Viewer, which is the 3D viewer. In the future, we'll start adding more content to this, like part numbers and information that's useful to help you identify your parts. Hopefully you will like the new functionality in IronCAD 2022 Product Update 1. In IronCAD 2022 Product Update 1, you can now improve your visibility of your scene browser by showing new icons for internal and external links. Currently, you can see items that are linked with either an icon at the bottom of the main icon and a tag, or a little green icon next to the left of an icon, showing that these are internal or external links. That's kind of hard to see in a lot of files, especially when you have a large assembly file. You can now go to the filters, click on more filters, and get a new option called Show Internal and External Links. If you click that, notice you'll see a new icon appear next to your part and assembly icons, identifying them as either internal links, which are these icons here, or external links. So you can quickly get a visible idea of all your internal and external links in your file. So a very handy filter that can be accessed by clicking on the filter tool and more filters. In IronCAD 2022 Product Update 1, you can now add status information to your parts and assemblies. Simply go up to your filters in your scene browser, go to More Filters, and turn on Show Status. This will allow you to see the status of particular parts and assemblies if they're set. If they're not, simply right-click on any part or assembly, go to Status, and give it a status of Complete, In Progress, Incomplete, Not Started, or No Status. For example, we can set this one to complete, we can select another assembly, set its status that we're working on that one, and we're particularly working on another part here that we want to say that's incomplete, and maybe this one's not yet started inside of here. So we can get a quick visual appearance using these icons to tell us which parts are completed or in progress in our design process. So a very handy tool, and if you'd like to turn that off, simply go back to your More Filters, turn off the status information, and that'll go away. Again, if you turn it back on, anything that's currently set will remain tied to the part and assemblies so that they quickly will show so you can get the status information.
In previous versions of IronCAD, you had the ability to use a box selection filter to allow you to select multiple items at the same time. With this box selection filter, you can assemble all the parts in a scene, move them all with a triball, group them, export them, delete them, many other things. But whenever you use the shift selection to select all your tools and you wanted to go back over and select even more to the list, you would remove anything that was already selected. So we've added new functionality that allows you to use shift and tab at the same time. So when you add anything to the box selection filter, it is only additive now. So when you do a box selection, you hover over something that's already selected, it will only add to your list. IronCAD 2022 Product Update 1 has added a new shortcut that allows you to toggle between different part edge options. Using the Control-E command will toggle between hidden edges, no edges, and edges. This command also works on assemblies as well. IronCAD 2022 Product Update 1 has added additional functionality that allows you to quickly select between the lowest possible assembly. This is similar to the Control-Click command, however it will follow any setting for preventing selection below assemblies or parts. You can see in our example that we have two assemblies in our scene. One allows us to go all the way down to the bottom with the Control-Click command, and the other, when you do it, does not allow for selection. However, using the tilde key and click, you can go down to the lowest possible assembly for our part, for our first assembly, and then when you select it for our prevent below assembly, it will only select up until the lowest possible, which in this case is assembly 3. Using this command and the tilde click command will select the lowest possible assembly in your tree and not go any further. However, using the Control click command will always go down to the lowest part setting. IronCAD 2022 Product Update 1 has added additional functionality to the stretch tool that allows you to choose your distance between the stretch by selecting 2 points within the scene. Simply go to the Stretch Assembly tool, create your plane, and then use the button Get Distance from Scene. Select the 2 points within your scene you want to take the value and distance from. You can also type into the distance stretch box for additional functionality.
In IronCAD 2022 Product Update 1, a new feature has been added to allow you to control the bend segment size parametrically. For example, we have a bend here on our stock, and we want to add another bend on our side here, which will automatically extend to the full length, which we call the extent. You can actually detach any one of these handles by simply pulling up on one handle to get a size for your bend. However, if you're building parametric models or models that change, you may want to keep that size. Notice in this case, this end will continue to extend and this end will stay fixed where it was at. So it actually grows. And that's not what we want. We actually want to control that size or even parametrically control that size based on the size of this stock handle, for example. To do that, simply go to your bend, go to IntelliShape Properties, and there's a new formula that's been added. If you click on Show Formulas at the bottom, you can control the location and the size of a bend by using your above or below values. Now each one of these have a unique expression that can be used. For example, say we want that bin height to be 0.8 inches, and it's critical to make sure you put your units inside of here, because if you don't, it'll use the meter units. But we're going to use 8 inches in this case, or you can actually use a formula. Like if you create a length formula and it has a name, you can put that name there as the length that you want as well. And then we want to subtract the actual extent length on that bend. So in this case, on the above, you need to use the second segment extent. Okay, so second segment extent to set that value. If we hit OK or hit Tab to see that, we'll actually give you a valid expression there. We'll hit OK. We'll see that bend automatically adjust to that size. So now when we pull that handle up or down, it'll maintain the length of 0.8 inches inside of there. Now you can use the below formula as well. If you didn't want to use the upper formula, you can use the below formula as well. The only difference is, instead of using the second segment up here, when you use the below, you need to use first segment extent on this expression. So those are the two expressions that you can use to set that value. Again, you can use a set distance inside of here, or you can actually put a parametric formula for that expression for the actual length size and subtract the extent of the bend. Hopefully that helps give you an idea of how to control that, and it's a useful tool for building parametric sheet metal parts. In IronCAD 2022 Product Update 1, there's a new capability to do a linked body for structured parts. This is found on the Structure Parts ribbon bar, which if it's not enabled, you can right-click on the gray area of the ribbon bars and go to Customize Ribbon to add the Structure Part ribbon bar. To use this tool, set a part or a structure part as active by right-clicking and saying Set as Active. Now that it is active, you can actually use the Copy Body or Linked Body command. The difference is the linked body actually maintains a linked relationship. For example, we'll go ahead and create a linked body, and we're going to select our other part that we have in our scene, which could be a structured part or an innovative part, but we're going to go ahead and link that into our body. And it uses the anchor location of our part and places it at the origin point of our structured part. So we can see it's located here, and we can select that B-rep body and move it around using the triball if we like. For example, we can move it down here. We can also do other operations inside of here if we want to use our feature command toolbar to do a pattern feature, for example. We can run that tool, select an edge or direction that we want to create that, maybe a size, maybe make it a little bit bigger, and we'll go ahead and create that pattern there for our shape, and maybe do a Boolean operation. And we can select that body as our main body, as our solid block, and we're going to subtract our other body, which is those, and hit OK, and we can create that. So the advantage of the linked body versus a copy body is if any changes are made to that part, for example, if we make this a little bit wider, you can see those changes occur on our structure part. So we can get those live updates. Now this tool is actually useful not only for internal files. In this case, we have our part here that's our internal file. You can use external reference files as well. So let's go ahead and just remove these particular commands here. Actually, we'll just go ahead and remove those from our body. And we'll go ahead and suppress our other part so we can show the other example. In this case, we're going to go ahead and do our file insert part assembly command. And we're going to select a body that we have here that's already created. And we're going to insert this as a linked part. So you can see that this is actually a linked part that's inside of our file. And it's currently grayed out because our other assembly or our other structure part is active. This is tied to an external linked file. For example, if I go ahead and open up that file as well, you can see this is the main file that we're using that shows that particular geometry inside of there. Now let's go back to our file, and we can do the same operations as we did before. On our structured part ribbon bar, we can go ahead and use the link body command, select our body, hit OK, and it'll tell us it's going to create this part at the location and assembly geometry itself. Sorry. It's going to update both its geometry and its position for this external linked reference file. So we'll go ahead and hit that and hit OK. And we can see that it's placed. Again, we can still use the triball to move this around, so maybe we'll just move this up a little bit to see the difference here for that particular file. And again, you can do operations like a Boolean operation in this case. We'll go ahead and do a Boolean, and we'll do a subtraction. We'll select our main body, our linked body that we're going to subtract it from, and we can see that change occur there. Now, since this is an external reference, we no longer need this body here for our usage, so we can actually delete that from the file. And we can see that our file still maintains our geometry, but even if we go to our external file and make changes, for example, maybe we'll make this a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit wider inside of here. We go back to our structure part, you can see that that automatically updates and maintains those changes. So a very handy feature, not only just to copy bodies from part to part, you can actually use the linked body for internal parts and external parts to use this as operations for such things as adding geometry to your structured part or removing geometry for things like molds in your designs.
In IronCAD 2022 Product Update 1, when creating an item bubble inside of a drawing, holding the Alt key will lock the placement of the item bubble to the horizontal or vertical axis.
In IronCAD 2022 Product Update 1, you can now see which item bubbles have been placed on your drawing. For example, we have a bill of material that has item bubbles 1 through 10. When we start the item bubble tool, we can see that the BOM actually changes color, telling you these items are not item bubbled. Once we start placing item bubbles, notice the rows start changing colors, letting you know which ones have been placed, which ones have not been placed, which is a very handy feature. You can also access this inside the actual BOM itself by selecting highlight the rows that are not item bubbled. So you can actually get a visual feel for what's not item bubbled in the bill of material itself, or by using the item bubble tool, and it will automatically give you that highlight. In IronCAD 2022 Product Update 1, the Broken View tool has been enhanced to do associative broken views. For example, we have a front view and a top view that is associated to our front view. For example, when we move our front, it is associated. When we go and create a new broken view by right-clicking and selecting Create Broken View, we can now place our broken view areas. For example, we'll create 2 area regions here on our part, and you can see a new option called Inherit Broken View. When this option is enabled, it will actually automatically apply to any associated views. So we'll go ahead and hit OK, and notice that will automatically update to the top view. We can edit this view and make changes. For example, maybe we'll change it to a small zigzag, and we'll just make a larger area just for reference here. To show this, when we update, notice those changes will apply to both. Notice this has a zigzag as well, and the broken view area regions are applied in both areas. This is very useful when you're trying to create annotations and dimensions on multiple views that have broken views, and make sure that they are properly aligned. In IronCAD 2022 Product Update 1, the Smart Dimension tool for the diameter dimension has a new option. Simply create your diameter dimension and place it in the desired location, and you can actually go to the properties on your dimension, and there's a new option to change to an internal dimension line when you have an outside circumference. Currently we have an inside with a line all the way through and arrows on each end. If you change it to the draw internal line and an outside circumference and hitting OK, it'll actually place a line through your geometry and arrows on the outside. This is useful in some standard types like ISO and others to create this type of dimension. versus just having an arrow with a leader pointing to it. This can be set on any individual dimension or as a style for your dimensions to have this setting.
IronCAD 2022 Product Update 1 has added new functionality that allows you to place a diameter dimension by selecting a quadrant point. If you were to select a quadrant and then select the opposite, you will now get the diameter dimension placed on top of your dimension. IronCAD has introduced a new hole callout symbol style that allows you to edit your callouts easily. From the menu bar, go to Edit and Styles, and you will see that there is a new hole callout symbol style. You can create a new style here or edit the existing default one. From here, you can just click on any symbol you want to add. You can add in any symbol you need. We already created a style called New Symbol Style, and we've added just a couple things to our counterboard. We'll go ahead and modify a couple more things. We'll just add just a couple of symbols just to show off the differences, and for anything else we'll just add a couple more symbols here. So if you want to have some crazy looking styles, then you go ahead and save that, and from there you can go to your styles and layers options. And inside these styles and layers options, if you go to dimensions, select the styles that you're using and select modify, and then we will go to callouts, and from here you can choose your whole callout symbol style, which we have default set right now, but if we go to new one, it'll add all of our new crazy symbols that we had. We're not going to do that right now, but we're just going to press cancel. And then we'll go to our scene where we already have a couple holes created for us. And what we're going to do is we're going to right click, go to properties, and then we'll go to callouts. And as you can see here, this option is also available, which will allow us to use that style and apply it on any part. IronCAD 2022 Product Update 1 has added a new button that allows you to set dimension styles when editing a single dimension. This will push the changes made in the Properties page to all the dimensions shown in the document. So if you go ahead and show this off, we'll go to our measurement tool, and then we will change the fractional display so it's on since we're in English units. When we press OK, it'll only select the one dimension we chose. We'll go back to the Properties page, and now we'll select Apply to Style, and this will apply to all dimensions within our document. And as you can see, the other dimension that we did not select has also updated. You can see this change being reflected when you go to the dimensions page, and you can modify your existing style that you're using. And you can see that it has been updated here as well. You can turn it off and apply it for the future, and you can see it turns off. You can also go back to the same page as well and press Apply to Style.
In IronCAD, it's typical to call out quantities in your drawings. For example, we have a master assembly file here of our main assembly file, and we want to call out a particular part on our sheet 2, which is this type 3 post assembly. I'm just going to go ahead and highlight it here so we know which one it is. It's this number 2 here. If we zoom in, it's number 2, and it has a total quantity of 6 in the main assembly file. However, that particular part, when we create a drawing, is actually an external reference file. So you can see when we create the part drawing and the BOM for that, you'll see that it expands out and shows us the individual pieces here. But we may want to call quantity here so that someone may know that there's actually 6 of these in the particular file. However, if we go ahead and create a text string, we'll create a text string here to refer to this particular part. We can actually go to the properties and add a part quantity BOM part quantity here. When we hit OK, notice it gives us a quantity of 1. Because this external file, there is only one of these particular parts. We want to refer to the main assembly file and its quantity. To do that, we actually go to our main file in our BOM and actually right-click and go to Properties and actually give it a custom label. In our case, we'll just give it a name. For example, maybe we'll call that main. Now, on our drawing, when we want to refer to that, we can go back into our texting properties and actually add, before the actual callout string, we can actually add a bracket and the name file for the BOM that we want to pull the information from. So we want to pull it from that main BOM that we labeled and pull its BOM quantity from there. When we hit OK, you'll notice that value changes to 6. So it gives us the quantity that we need for this particular drawing. And we can put other strings inside of here if we like. We can go back to our properties and put some other information here. For example, in the front of this, we can just go ahead and say quantity equals and hit OK. And now we have a better string showing us our value and our quantity total. So a very handy tool now in IronCAD 2022 Product Update 1 to be able to call out quantities from other BOMs.